guys, today we're going to start our 3.19 coverage, and I thought the most appropriate video to start the season with would be an update on Cast on Death. This build has been my brainchild. I love it. I love putting it together, and I loved all the theory crafting that went behind it. And as I think a lot of us expected, we knew that this was going to most likely get nerfed next season. And well, here are the nerfs. Some people like to call this the alley section of patch notes. I found that kind of funny when we were looking through everything. And if you want to just quickly look at them, they have nerfed Cast on Death by over half. At level 20, it is now 152% multiplier when it used to be 304. And they have absolutely attempted keyword to gut anomalous by making it go from 0 to 100 flat crit chance, and it now is 0 to 10. Well, I'm here to tell you that these changes absolutely mean nothing. This does not kill Cast on Death at all. They tried. They really tried, but none of this matters. So one important thing to look at first is if we straight up just remove the quality on Cast on Death, we can see that I'm sitting at 85% crit chance with my own personal build. If we just simply add one quality, which is the equivalent of 10% quality under the new scaling, we can see that even just one quality is enough to put me at 100% crit chance. Discharge has such a high base crit chance, and we have so much crit chance from all over the place, along with our power charges, that we already are sitting at a ridiculously high base crit chance. And simply just getting a tiny little bit of crit chance from the anomalous portion of Cast on Death puts us back up at 100%. So if we were to simulate the Cast on Death nerfs, that would basically come up to a level 9 cast when damage taken. Sorry, a level 9 Cast on Death with 2% quality. This is going to be the same thing as a level 20 with 20% quality in Sentinel. Now, if we were to just set this back to level 20, as you can see, we're currently sitting at 376 million damage. And if we put it down to level 9, we get at 224. Now, this is more than enough to kill normal bosses. This is our current damage against an Uber boss. And if we simply just change it to Guardian/Pinnacle, as we can see, we're still doing 750 million damage, which is massive overkill given the normal bosses have around 100 million health. This would allow us to do any affix, and we should still be able to one-shot no matter what. It'll work exactly the same way it does. Now for an Uber boss, this unfortunately isn't enough damage to kill it with my level investment. After I put out the video, I put a bit more investment in my build just for the sake of getting my number higher. But the thing about this build is it's so insane, it's so strong that its upper limit is ridiculously disgusting. If we go over to 3.18 and look at the most min-max version of this build I could possibly come up with, as we can see, this does 4.6 billion damage. And if we simply were to go over here and change the Cast on Death to level 9, as we can see, it still does 2.5 billion damage. A build this min-max would absolutely not care about this nerf, and even if this was level 1, it would still be more than enough damage to instantaneously one-shot the boss, right? A 32 more damage while dead multiplier is more than enough. So where does that lead us in 3.19? Well, for around 50 to 60 exalted worth of investments, which is around where I am, you will be pretty close to one-shotting Uber bosses, and you'll have more than enough overkill to kill normal bosses. Now, one thing to note is in 3.18, they are nerfing Omni by a slight amount. If you look here, we can see that Omni is now 1% per 15 instead of 1% per 10, which makes Omni 33% weaker. Now, this does not completely gut Omni. Omni is simply just going to require more money to start as a build, and it's just going to be a pricier build to min-max to a very high degree. It's still a nerf at the end of the day, and I think this is going to tank the prices of Omni, which is going to make it really nice because that means more people corrupt them. But at the same time, if the price of Searing Invitations don't go down as well, you will not be able to get any profit from doing Searing Exarch, which means we'll only be able to do Eater Worlds, which is fine because honestly, Eater Worlds with the nerfs on a lower budget Cast on Death is easier to do. So with my current setup, as I said, when I went and tried an Uber boss, it took me around 2 to 3 deaths to actually finish the boss off. That was with no mods, and that was with about 50x investment. But if I were to go do a normal boss, I would instantaneously one-shot like it's nothing. Now, the thing is, you might not necessarily care that you are doing Uber or not. If you look at the Uber version of Eater Worlds, all it adds is a 25% chance to drop an additional Eldritch Ichor. This, in my opinion, is not very strong and it does not actually make you much money. The one for Searing Exarch, on the other hand, is substantially more important, a 50% chance for Eldritch currency to be duplicated. This also works on the Exalted Orbs, the Chaos Orbs, and the Annul Orbs, which adds quite a lot of profit. The Eldritch currency did make us a decent chunk of our money, but we're not really losing out on much here, as the Ichors themselves weren't worth too much, and it's only a 25% chance for an additional. The only other thing that you're losing for not doing Uber is the fancy Forbidden Jewels. Just as a reminder, every class has a special ascendancy point that can only be gotten through the Forbidden Jewels, and these only drop on Uber difficulty. From my experience, most of these really aren't worth anything, especially for Trickster. Soul Drinker kind of sucked, it was bugged, and this is being replaced with Harvest of Void anyway. The Pathfinder one was absolutely awful. The Champion one was worth a tiny bit of money. The Juggernaut one was worth a tiny bit of money. The Inquisitor one wasn't really worth anything, and 9 lives I think was the most priciest at around 20 to 30 Exalted. But from my personal experience of killing a few thousand of these bosses this season, I only saw a few of the special Uber jewels, and they really did not make a very large percent of my profits. Most of my profits came from getting good ones, such as, you know, Profane Bloom or Malediction or Mastermind Discord or Herald of Destruction, right? The ones people really want for builds. And because of that, honestly, it's gonna just come down to, you're either gonna do non-Uber with a absolutely drop dead budget build. You'll be able to get rid of half this gear and still be able to one-shot them like it's nothing. The normal bosses are ridiculously easy to outgear, especially since they somehow didn't touch Annihilating Light. Honestly, you should be able to do this on a 4-link even. Don't quote me on that, but the amount of damage that you need is only around 70 million, and getting 70 million in Path of Building is honestly pretty easy to do. With that said, the Uber bosses, if you really do want to farm them for some reason, which in my opinion, I really don't see a reason to, it's looking, if we base it off of prices around the time when I released my video before the massive price hike, I would say you would have probably needed an equivalent 100 to 150x build to get to an average hit that's high enough to instantaneously one-shot an Uber boss, which at that point I don't really see as much of a point to do that, as that's quite a lot of investment, especially if you want to do this super early into season and start farming ashes for money when they're going to be in high demand and there's not going to be many out. You can easily put together a build good enough to start farming Eater Worlds probably by day 2, day 3. And if you can somehow farm 20, 30 Exalted to get yourself going, you should be able to do this as a strategy if you really wanted to. It would just be an extremely high risk starting strategy that I wouldn't advise, but it would be very doable. Yeah, given the changes, I commemorate GG for attempting to nerf this build. I feel like they should have probably taken a path of building of probably anyone playing this build and actually played with the numbers to see that even if you made this a level 1 build, it would still be enough to one-shot a normal boss. I guess their goal was to make it a lot harder to do Uber bosses, or maybe they even attempted to make it completely impossible to do an Uber boss like this, but unfortunately they didn't really succeed. Either way, if this is a build that you guys want to play going into next season outside of the Cast on Death change, absolutely nothing else has changed about it. And if you do want to play it again, I hope you have fun with it. I had a lot of fun this season. I don't think I'll be doing it again personally, just because I don't really like repeating builds. I like to try new stuff. But if you do play it and do have some success with it, please let me know. I would love to know how it goes for you throughout the season. And obviously, if there's anything you ever need, if there's ever any help that you need with your build, I always stream on Twitch. You're free to come by and ask away any questions. We'll be live pretty much every day for the next 2 months. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next video covering 3.19.